Ontario Progressive Conservative leader Doug Ford holds a rally to speak about Hydro One in Toronto on Tuesday, May 15, 2018. And Vincent Elkaim, the Canadian press. This Ontario election is said to be about change, but neither of the other major parties is promising to change the single worst policy instituted by the Kathleen Wynne government. Instead, they say they will leave the so-called Fair Hydro plan in place and double down by reducing power bills even more. Ontario voters need to wrap their heads around how much this idiocy is going to cost us and the bogus justification for the plan, which artificially reduces our power bills by 25% and borrows money to make up the difference. Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne, right, speaks as Ontario Energy Minister Glenn Thibeault looks on during a press conference in Toronto on Thursday, March 2, 2017, to announce the government's hydro relief plan. Frank Gunn, the Canadian press. Thanks to the Auditor General and the Financial Accountability Office, we know the Liberal scheme will cost us $21 billion in interest over the 10-year life of the power discount. That interest, and the borrowed principal, will be tacked onto future power bills, meaning people in 2028 will be paying for power they used in 2018. Liberals euphemistically call this the Clean Energy Adjustment. To put that $21 billion in context, people still talk about the $1 billion it cost to cancel a couple of gas-fired power plants back in the Dalton-McGuinty era. That was chump change in comparison. The justification, besides political butt-saving, is that the government is spreading the high cost of building a clean, modern power system over a longer period of time. It is likened to stretching out a mortgage. This is an argument that is incorrect in every respect. The public hasn't paid the capital cost of the big gas, wind and solar expansion, there isn't a mortgage, and we haven't built a modern and efficient system. There has been a huge expansion of Ontario's generation capacity, but it was built by the private sector, not the government. Between 2004 and 2014, the government agreed to new power contracts that amount to about two-thirds of Ontario's generating capacity, the Auditor General says. Ontario Hydro, smart meter. Jean Levick, Ottawa citizen. These contracts were not subject to normal rate regulation processes, which enabled the government to offer extremely high prices for that new power. The public doesn't own those natural gas, wind and solar plants, or any debt attached to them. The power bill reduction is not based on refinancing the cost of an asset, as we are led to believe. The cost we are postponing is for current consumption, not for long-term capital expense. We are not stretching out a mortgage. The Fair Hydro plan is more like going to one of those payday loan joints to pay a basic utility bill. But what about that clean, green modern power system? Despite the solar and wind spending binge, they supplied only 7% of our power last year. The gas plants are overbuilt but seldom used, supplying only 4% of power. That's 1/7 of their capacity. It's all ridiculously inefficient. The vast majority of our power, 89%, was supplied by nuclear and water power, just like it was before the overhyped green power revolution. And let's not forget the other part of equation, the power transmission. That is the prime purpose of Hydro One. It is also implied that the company is in top-notch shape thanks to that spending we now have to stretch out. Not quite. The Auditor General's last report on Hydro One was in 2015. She noted worsening reliability, increasing costs, more frequent power outages and poor maintenance of assets. Between 2010 and 2014, outages lasted 30% longer and occurred 24% more frequently. The accumulated replacement backlog for assets beyond their expected life was $4.5 billion. The power system is a huge mess that the next government will have to tackle, yet all parties argue that today's power costs are unaffordable and promise to solve the problem by making those costs much higher in the future. Their brains shorted out. Randall Denley is an Ottawa commentator, novelist and former Ontario PC candidate. Contact him at randalldenley1@gmail.com.